Hi everyone, this is Introduction to Constellation session. In this we will go through a sample business use case. First we'll try to understand the business context. We'll see what we're trying to solve first. Based on that we will get an understanding of what application we need to create in Pega. The first and foremost thing is we'll create an application on top of Cosmos React in this session. And within the same application, we will see how we can configure a case type directly from the App Studio itself. Most of this session, majorly for development, we are going to use only App Studio. We're not going to touch Dev Studio until we would like to see any internal details on how it has created in the backend. Okay. Now, coming to the business context, I have taken a sample business use case, which I feel it should be very easy for everyone to understand. Try to follow me along on this one. Imagine there is a fast moving consumer good FMCG organization. Think of it like the Coca Cola or PepsiCo. Let's consider the Coca Cola. It has so many products like Coca Cola or Diet Coke. Likewise, it has so many products. For such a big giant company like Coca-Cola to make its own product, it definitely needs some raw materials, and it will have some tie-ups with some suppliers who will be providing the raw materials, right? Most of you must be more comfortable with this, I believe, because it's just a transaction. So supplier will be supplying the raw materials, and then finally these organizations have to pay back the supplier saying, hey, you have supplied me raw materials of cost, let's say £1,000, and then or $1,000, then this organization has to pay back those £1,000 back to the supplier, which is good. Likewise, the same supplier can be sending the raw materials in so many occasions. Maybe in a year, the same supplier one might be sending raw materials 10 times or 20 times based on the demand of this organization. And all those payments have to be made in time, obviously, right? Because that's how the business works. Now, currently, you imagine, I'm just making up this particular business use case. Imagine this is happening in a manual fashion right now. So supplier one will be sharing the details over an email or via Excel, and that needs to be received by some team in this organization, and they have to process the information and then add some more information on top of it, and then finally send it for approval. And you can imagine if these things are happening manually, that takes a lot of time and it can be error prone. And tomorrow, if they need all of this data for the last 1 year or 2 years, the consolidation of data or reporting will become tough if the data is maintained in Excel sheets or in any manual fashion. Right? So, obviously, that calls for automation. And this use case wherein a process is also involved, I feel these use cases are more right for Pega because Pega has a very good, powerful case management capability. So, if you're already a developer working on Pega, you would have already seen many use cases where Pega has a powerful ways to digitalize the workflows, which is good. But if you're someone new to Pega and you're trying to understand a sample business use case, think of this one as a starting example, and after this you'll be able to understand any other examples which come your way. Okay, so we understood. So supplier is basically providing the raw materials, and this demo organization is paying the amount back to supplier, which is the cost of this raw material. Good. And for that there is a process, some approvals are needed. All of that we are trying to set up the workflow in Pega. Good enough. So now we are trying to make an assumption that this demo organization has already chosen Pega for the digitalization. Not only for this particular request, they have bought the Pega product, licensing and all. They have the Pega product and they would like to start with one simple use case. And tomorrow, related to payments, they have so many other processes which they would like to automate. So for this, you are the architect, and if you have to create an application, so we understand the background. So this is a payment request, which is a process, which involves a process which needs to be automated. But this payment request, along with this, I'm also giving you the context that there are some more functionality that are coming under the same payments line of business. So for that reason, what we're trying to do is where this is more of like a whiteboarding what I have done here so that it will be easy for everyone to follow. So like this payment request, so the current process which we are trying to automate is payment request, where we need to do certain things. We'll go to that level in a bit. But before that, the payment request is one of such requests, and tomorrow we have forecast that there are few more requests coming in into Pega. In that case, the application what we're creating here is we know that there are a few more payment services which this organization needs, the demo organization in this case. So we are calling the application as payment services. Within that, one of the request is payment request. Tomorrow there can be so many other requests which are to do with sorry, which are to do with the payment services. Okay, so to start with, what needs to be done in the system is first, some users, one team has to collect the supplier details in this case, right? And once the supplier details are taken, in this case, I added a very basic attributes. It can be extended and it can be modified. That is all fine. But idea is initially the supplier details are captured by one team, and then other team will capture all the raw materials that the supplier have provided, and what is the raw material name and what is the unit cost and quantity, and then total cost can be derived and they can look at the overall cost. Then it can be sent to approval to some line manager or some officials in the organization who can look at that and the data, and they can approve or reject based on the data what they're looking for that request, right? This is a good example. Now you understood that we're going to create an application called payment services in Pega, and then within that application we are going to create a case type payment request, and then we are going to split this workflow into few stages and configure steps and views, right? Okay, fair enough. So we understood what is a high level workflow and what is the data that is getting captured in the workflow and what is the main objective, right? So that's it for the context setting. Now let's jump on to the demo. Okay, let's look at how to create the application now. Okay, we have a fair understanding of the business use case. We have also done some whiteboarding on what should be the application name, what should be the case time. Now, how to create the application? Now, I'm switching to my Pega instance. I'm opening a browser. I have Pega 8.8.3 instance in my system, so I'm opening that. And with this, I'm logging in with my basic credentials. Okay, and then yeah, I'm landed onto the App Studio, which is good. This is already one of the Constellation application which I have created, but let us create an application from the scratch. For that, I'm clicking on application. Just I'm considering if there are any beginners who are trying to catch up. For them, I'm trying to go slow. So here under the application menu, you would find a new application. Once you click on this, you have options, several options based on which you can build the application. I would like to build an application on top of Cosmos React. That's the whole purpose of this session, right? So I don't want to build it from the scratch. So let me search for Cosmos React in this case. Yes, I can see the Cosmos React application. So we chose that and use this application type. Yes, and what should be the name of our application? As we decided, our application name is Payment Services for our demo organization. And don't click on Create Application. Choose Advanced Configuration and give some meaningful name here. So in this case, these are all payment services, right? Let me see if the name can be taken. No, it is still not taking that. So let me call this as Payment Services. Okay. And with that, I see, and the organization name in this example is demo organization. So under demo and application as pay SVCS and work. For demo, anyways, the organization, I would like to leave that as org for some other reasons. But in your case, whatever is the organization in reality, we will be giving that. Right, so pay services is our application name, org is the organization name, and the sample division and sample unit is taken. That's fine. I do not want to generate this division layer for this. Okay, we're good with this configuration. Let's go ahead and save this and hit the create application, which means in the backend now it should process and create an application for us with the name payment services, which is built on top of Cosmos React. That is our expectation. This will take a while. Good, it's done now. And I see that the access is already added to my operator ID. I'll show that to you also in a moment. But before that, let me navigate to the application. Okay. So with this, you see that the payment services application is created, and this is our Cosmos React application. Currently, I'm in App Studio, right? Yeah, we'll see the portal in a while, but you already see that our application is already there. To verify what has happened in the backend, so let me switch to Dev Studio to show you. I'm switching to Dev Studio only to notice what has happened in the backend, what application got created. So I'll open application definition to show you things first. Okay, this is our application which got created, which is decent, and it is built on top of Cosmos React, so it is as per our expectation. Also, I would like to see my operator once. Yes, so this is my operator, and it should have the access group of the others, which is making sense, right? And then I see uh, within that, yeah, this is the application, yeah, this is the access group, and things are looking good, right? And the portal wise, I see there is a web portal. That is one thing to notice. Anyways, developer we know, PX Express is for App Studio, that we know, but web portal is something new, right? So we will take a look at what is this web portal and all. Or if you would like to look at the web portal, you can launch it and also take a look once, right? Let's see how that looks like by default. Yeah, this is how it is looking. Still it's cool. I can see the React ways of working on the portal to start with first. So successfully we have created the application payment services, and let me switch back to App Studio, and this is where we are. Okay. And right now we see the case types are empty. I don't see any case types, which makes sense. In a moment, we will start creating this case type as well. Okay. Okay. Now let's take a look at how to create a case type from App Studio in the same application what we just created, right? So this is the application payment services, and we are in App Studio, and currently we are in the case types, and we can click on new to create a new case type. And what is our case type name? As we decided, it has to be payment request based on our use case. Let's expand to see, going with standard and the default options to proceed further. So we just created a case type named payment request. Now the question comes, what should be the stages within our case type, right? So for that, let us go back to the slide where we have done some whiteboarding. Okay. I see now the case type is created. It is empty as of now, which makes sense. So before we give any name to the stages or steps, it's always good to look at our whiteboarding on our analysis, right? So within payment request, as part of initiation, I see someone is trying to capture the supplier details. And after that, I see as part of processing, someone is trying to add more details to it, saying these are all the raw materials and furthermore details. As this is an example, we are talking about one step, but probably after adding the product details or the raw material details, they might be doing a number of other steps also. And once every information is captured, then it is sent to approval or rejection. Yeah. So I'm going to segregate this into three stages. This one I'm going to call it as initiation, and the next one as processing, and the last one as approval. Okay. Sorry for that. Now you saw that, okay, we agreed to choose three stages for this process, which is payment request. Now switching to App Studio, let's start in that way. The first stage, I'm going to call it as initiation. And the next stage, I'm going to call it as processing. And third stage, I'm going to call it as approval, because approval is the last part in this case. Of course, after approval, there can be more stages, or within the approval, there can be steps like sending it for the real payment or integration with the payment systems. But we are not going till there. We want to explore a very basic use case with this one to start with, right? So as part of initiation, what we are trying to do, we agreed that we are capturing the supplier details. So capture supplier details. That's the first part. And as part of processing, we are capturing the product details. I can also call them as raw material details, but not to be so much specific to reuse some of this data model. I'm calling this as capture product details. And within approval, I'm configuring a step which is to approve or reject. That's all. So we have configured the stages and steps at a very high level. And now coming to each stage, to me, always I feel like giving some status without which I feel it's incomplete. When it comes to initiation, the case, I am planning to set this as new. And then for processing, I would like to this as pending processing. Then finally, when it enters approval stage, I want to call that as pending approval. Okay. And once approve or reject, let me check this one. If it is approve or reject, if it is rejected, I would like to change stage and then move this to approval rejection stage. Yeah. With this now I feel the basic configuration of the case type is complete. Okay. Now let us move to the data model. Coming to data model, uh, let us go back to our slide once to look at what information we need. For data model, you need to clearly understand few things because this is more important. Probably if you're a beginner, you might feel you might feel some difficulty in understanding this in the first go. But if you have a hands-on and if you give it a try once, then it should be fair enough. But the way how it is getting configured in App Studio, it gives me a feeling that even a layman can understand this. Okay, let's give it a try and see if you're a beginner, if you are able to follow along or not. Feel free to comment on any feedback you have if you're especially a beginner. Okay, now moving back to App Studio, we see that in the case type payment request data model, these are something which came out of the box. We didn't create them, but they came already along with the creation, which is good. Now, what fields we need to create? First one is here. I see I need a property, a field, which is of type, which is supplier, right? To hold the supplier details. And I need one property, a field, which holds this product list. For that, what I'm going to do, first let's focus on the supplier details. Okay. So I need a field which holds the supplier details, as I said, right? Translating that to here, supplier details, which is not a text. Instead, it will hold so many other properties, which is more like an embedded page to me. For that, let us see what options do we have here. So I have embedded data and it is a single record. I know it's not a list of records. Within one request, payment request, I would like to capture only one supplier. That is my business requirement. So for that reason, I am going with single record. Data objects, currently there are no data objects, so I'm going to define one new data object and call it as supplier. Okay, so we created supplier, which is a single record, and clicking on advanced, I would like to name this with a meaningful name. That's it. So supplier details is created. Submit and add another. So you would see supplier details was successfully added. We will see that in a moment. And the next one I would like to add is product list, which is the list of products. For that, as you would already guess it, you would have guessed it, like instead of text, I'm going to again embedded data, but this time it is a list of records because I have a list of raw materials in this scenario. For that, define new object. I don't have the product data object already, so I'm creating a data object with by name product. So far I feel it's straightforward, and expanding this advanced, I would like to give a meaningful name to this. That's it. So we have created two properties that we need. One is of type page, right? One is of type page list. Where are they here? This is the one. Supplier details, which is embedded data, product list, which is embedded data. Both are mapping to their own objects, supplier and product. And let me cross check if I mapped supplier to single record, which makes sense to me, and product list to a list of records. Awesome. Now this is good. But do we really have any attributes under this data objects? No. So I'm going to click on this supplier to add the attributes into this. So within supplier, I don't have any properties as of now. This is just the out of the box one. So I need some properties, right, within the supplier. For that, we go back to our slide, our whiteboarding. Within supplier, we need name, ID, location, number, email ID. Let us go through that one by one. So field name, yes, I need name, which is a text, makes sense. Okay, and that's it. Submit and add another. So name was added successfully. And then ID, for simplicity, I'm keeping that as text. Okay, let's add one more. Next one is location. Location, I prefer to use this with a pick list, not the text, because it can be error prone, right? So I'll go with a pick list, which is having the pick list options local in this case, and I'm going to choose some of places which I like. Okay, for this example, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and okay, one more, London. Okay, so these are the values I have given in this pick list, which is okay. So location is also added. And our next one is phone, I believe. So phone, let me cross check once with our, yeah, it's a number. Okay, what I mean is it's phone number. It's phone, and then I will keep this to phone itself. We have one, yeah, phone. And submit and add another. Yeah, phone was successfully added. And the next one is email ID. For email ID, there should be a type email directly. Email, perfect. We added all of the fields what we need, right? For supplier data object. Now I would like to see if they are already primary. No, but I would like to make all of them as primary. Okay, so I'm going to choose ID, location, name, phone, and email ID. These are all primary. You'll get to know why I chose them as primary in some time, but to already give you a heads up, so I made them as primary. You're seeing that flag, which is good. I save this. Yeah. Now going back from supplier. Yeah, so we are in, okay, we are in the case type payment request, and we were in data model here. And within the data model, within supplier details, we added all the details, but product we are yet to add. So I'm choosing product, and then we add, yeah, we add all the product fields here. What fields do we have within the product? You see ID, name, unit cost, quantity, total cost. Here we must be careful. I'll tell you why. ID, yes, I have created ID, and then product name, I'll call that as product, or I can call it as name because it's already there in the product. That's okay. Name and quantity. Quantity is a number, so I'm going to go for quantity. Yes, that's right, which is, I'll go for integer in this case. Quantity was added, and then we have unit cost. Unit cost, I'm going to choose currency because it's a cost, currency. And what else? Total cost. Total cost is also currency, as you would have guessed. And in the advanced, I would like to set this as calculated field and function, use expression, use dot unit cost into multiplied by dot quantity. Okay, that's all. So we added all the properties that we needed here, and as you guessed it, like we need to add them to the primary fields for a reason, okay, which will benefit us in some time. ID, name, quantity, unit cost, total cost, unit cost, all of them are added as primary fields. Good. So with this, we have added all the required data model also to this case type. Okay, so overall, within this case type, let us go back, which is payment request. We added the stages, initiation, processing, and approval. Then we added the steps, capture supplier details, capture product details, and approval part, which is approve or reject. We associated a basic statuses to each of these stages, which is mere configuration. And then we navigated to data model. Whatever data model we need in each step, we ensure that all the fields are created for supplier details and product list. Right? Once the embedded data is created here with respect to the fields, we ensure that even we have the respective attributes inside these data objects. Hope you have followed till here. Okay. Next, we will move on to the interesting part where we configure the views to these steps. Okay. Okay. Coming to configuring of views, let us start with capture supplier details. This is the first step which needs configuration of view, right? So clicking on this option, configure view, takes us to this edit view of that. And then we see there is a template. Since you're looking this for the first time, let's say, there are two options, and here we have default form, and then we see the number of columns. I'm going to go with one column because it looks good even if we have to see this in mobile. That's my personal feeling. And then primary fields, everything is empty. This is our capture supplier details. So we definitely need supplier details to be shown up over here. Correct? And on the before we, what is the rationale behind these primary fields? Okay, whatever fields you mark as primary, they are going to display in the case 360 as well. So whether it is supplier details or whether it is product details or raw material details, we want them to be shown in the case 360. So just before we start with this, one prerequisite exercise, it would save your time if you do that. So supplier details, let us go to this and add it as a primary field. Okay, so I want supplier details and product list, both of them part of this is alphabetically ordered, so that would help us to find them quickly. Yeah, supplier details, and this order is also essential. So supplier details and product list, I'm adding them as primary fields. When I speak about the order, okay, within the payment request, we have taken care of the order of supplier details and product list. But what about the details within the supplier itself or within the product? Let us go to supplier data object to see the order in the primary fields. Okay, so we have name, ID, location, phone, email ID. I have ensured that these are ordered in the right way. And in the same way, let us come back to product data object as well. So within the data model, product data object, let's see in the primary fields if the order is as expected. ID, name, unit cost, quantity, and total cost. Looks good to me. Okay, that's it. Now, yeah, this is done. This looks good to me from the data model perspective. And again, we will revisit the configure view option. Now, if we go to configure view, since you're on the first screen and it says primary fields, since we added everything as primary, it is going to bring up everything. You see, supplier details also. For this, what we'll do is we'll remove the primary fields. On the first screen, I don't want to see this whole list of primary fields. Instead, I want the user to see only the supplier details. So we pick supplier details here. That's all. Okay, and once we select supplier details, we didn't choose any of the properties, but whatever we chose in the primary fields, you see all of them got listed here. If you have not selected one of them as primary, let's say email ID is not marked as primary, then it wouldn't have shown up. How do I know that? If you click on this hyperlink of this supplier details embedded page, then it takes you to the place where it is saying it is listing all the primary fields, because of which this is coming up. And you see now, because of this, there is a nice heading which is supplier details as well, right? So under create, you are seeing the supplier details, which makes sense to me. And the first view is configured, so all the supplier details form is already designed in that sense. So the view is designed. Now moving on to capture product details, this shouldn't take much time. Now we got a fair understanding of what is the view and all. And within this capture product details, what we want is a field which is a product list, right? And product list is a page list, as we all know. It's an embedded page of type repeating structure, which is a page list. That's why it already took this as a grid. Good. Now under the cog icon, you will see what all columns you would like to add over here. And here, even though we marked them as primary, in the grids we will try to select, right? It's not always that we will try to keep all the primary fields. So the choice is still there: product ID, product name, product unit cost, quantity, and total cost. Yeah. With respect to order, I'm going to change that over here: ID, name, unit cost, quantity, and total cost. Fine. So we are good with this. Okay, and there are so many other options. That's nice to see that so many options are provided here for the I mean, with respect to achieving other requirements as well, but not going there for now, focusing on what we are planning to do. Yeah, the second view is also configured. And now moving to approval part. Right, so here I see notes there is an error. I have to check the logs or have to debug why that's the case. But for now, we'll move on. And we'll add can I add already the fields which are already there in the, yeah, I see for product list already it is there. Or how about I say primary fields? then it should list me everything if I'm not wrong. Yeah, just waiting for that. Yeah, I see the primary fields. Yeah, it is listing everything, which is good in terms of supplier details and product list. So I can go with this, but this is not giving me a clear segregation between supplier details and product list. So for that reason, I'm not choosing the primary details in this case. I'll still go with the same option, which is supplier details and product details. Okay, product list. Okay, fine. If you're having a confusion, what is this details and list? Normally in Pega, if it is a page, we go with details. If it is a repeating structure, we go with the list structure. Okay, in terms of ordering, we want supplier details in the top. So supplier details, who is the supplier, what are these details, and what are the products or raw materials they have given along with their cost, so that approver can see and add a note and can approve or reject it, right? So that's it. We are done with the third view as well. So we have configured the views for all of these stages. They're good. I'm saving this and I'll switch to the portal, turn editing off, which takes me to the actual portal. I'll start with the fresh request, create payment request. Okay. So here I have, let me start fresh because I don't want you to give, this is a home page. Yeah, this is the portal actually. And from here, I see a create option and then I can create a payment request. In this example, I would like to call out that there is an industry supplier, that is Sugar Industries. Okay, Sugar Industries. Let me call it as Kumar Sugar Industries Limited. That is one organization, a supplier, which is supplying the supplier ID with respect to this FMCG organization is supplier so and so ID. It is from Bangalore location. And I'll say I am giving one sample phone number, one dummy test phone number. Okay, that's it. And email ID wise, I'll give one. Okay, let me put it in the same way. Kumar Sugar Industries Limited @gmail.com. Okay, making sense, right? So someone is assume that this Kumar Sugar Industries has supplied some sugar and other raw materials to an FMCG company equivalent to Coca-Cola or something like that. Okay, in making the products. For that, they're submitting the payment request so that they can get their money back, which makes sense, right? So submit. And we are on the next screen for that, where it is asking for the product list, where user have to capture the raw materials. So for each one, there will be some ID, obviously, because there will be lot of IDs, right? There will be lot of raw materials, and for each raw material, there should be an ID. I'm calling that as sugar raw material 1. Okay, so that we can easily recognize. Unit cost is $40 and quantity is 50. Then you see it got derived, the total cost. In the same way, I'll copy paste. I'll say this is 124 and this is sugar raw material 2 and 50 and quantity is 90. Then it got good. And next one is sugar 125 as the ID, and I'll populate 5 products so that it will fill the screen so we can get to see how the user experience feels like, right? And same with 1 to 6 and 4 and 80. In reality, it could be more. Okay, but just giving you an example. 5. Then we take 60 and 50. Yeah. So overall, we populated 5 raw materials in this product list. So for this supplier, they have supplied these many raw materials, which is of worth of this cost. Maybe at a later point, we can also have another attribute which is derived based on all of this, which is an addition of all of this, which will be a very good example. But that's fine. I showed you already one example of the derived one. It's not so tough to make another attribute which is calculating the sum of all of these, right? So the product list or raw materials list is captured on this capture product details screen under processing. Now click on submit. Okay, and then you see that it went for approval. In reality, this initiation step might be done by one team and processing will be taken care by another team, and approval is taken care by some invoice team. Likewise, there can be multiple teams which are involved, but for a simple demo we are doing. Anyways, routing is quite easy in Pega, as most of you should be aware of. Oh, but one interesting thing is I have entered all the product details, but I do not see any of the details over here. Okay, I can understand. This is because in the approval screen, we have added all the primary fields, and that primary field somehow it's not taking all the records. Let us fix this. I mean, this is valid. This can happen, right? So that means we have missed to add some configuration in the primary fields. Let's go to that view. It's a good example. Going to case type, payment, in the approval view, even though data is there, it has not shown up. For that matter, what is there in that view? Yeah, so we gave product list. I just added this embedded data. Okay, I see. Then I probably I have missed to add the columns. That's why it didn't show up. It's a good example, right? So when these kinds of things show up, then we'll get to see what got missed. It's a good way to debug things as well whenever things pop up like this. I will move this to the front, unit cost, quantity, and then total cost. Okay, submit. Then that's all. Now even this view is fixed. Now we go back to our portal where we are working on. Yeah, and this is the approval screen, right? So these are all the details what we have entered so far. Even processing is done. Now we are in approval. Now once I'm done, once I enter into the approvals tab, then I nicely see under supplier details whatever details we have entered, and product list whatever details we have entered. I see all of this. Yeah, making this editable read only, we can that's quite simple, and we can get to that also if required in the next sessions. But for now the idea is very simple. We're able to configure all the views in all the three stages, and we are in the third screen on the approval screen. Approval have a feeling that, oh, this is good, and he goes through the data. This request has come from Bangalore based company, a supplier who has been supplying us for so many years, and then he will see, okay, he or she, the approval will see, okay, product list, we got all the 5 products from them, and the unit cost and quantity are matching to what we received, and the total cost. Probably in future we can have a field which will show the complete cost that will help the approver to approve or reject, right? And finally approver takes a decision and he approves it. Okay, and you see overall the case is completed, even approval is done. Well, let's check why the work status is showing pending approval. Okay, in the configuration, I'm just switching back to case type once again to see if there is any finishing touch we need to give. Yeah, and in approval, once all of the cases are completed, we are saying automatically move to the next stage. And yeah, once it entered, we said it is pending approval, but once approval is done, we didn't set anything as such like, yeah, if approved then continue, but I would like to set this status to approved. That's it. Okay, that's a good idea, right? Now let us go to let us go to one more case and run it and see how the demo looks like. Yeah, I go to home page, and then I realize in the work list whatever payment requests I'm creating, they're ending up over here, and I see the pulse gadget, which is good, my work list. These are the 2 primary things which I look at for now. And moving on to creating one more payment request. This time I see, even like for preparing Coke or any such drinks for an FMCG industry, even it needs some orange juice as a raw material. For that, I'm calling Orange Juice and Co. As another company which is supplying. They have a supplier ID. With the organization, FMCG organization, I'm just giving a random number, and then which is there in Hyderabad location, and phone number they're entering, and they have already provided the raw materials, and we are just trying to a team in this organization has received a request for them to process it and approve it so that they can receive their payment and it can be paid to them, right? So that's it. And yeah, remember this ID 2012, and initiation is done. The basic details are captured, and then we are going to the product list. I'll call this as raw material, right? So this is more on the orange juice, so I'll start with the ID like this, and orange raw material raw material 1. Likewise, within that there could be a classification, right? So I'm just making it up as raw material 1, 2 and 3, and quantity wise some 60. Here I'll give only 2 this time, 2 or 3 to save time, because would have got the idea already, right? Then unit cost as 60 and quantity as 60. Yeah, then it is taking it up. And one last one, O3 and raw material 3, right? And 40, and let me give a high number. That's it. So overall the product list is captured in processing, and we are submitting for approval. Yeah, and then approval nicely gets to see all the details, right, as we discussed, and verified, and the raw materials are received, are tallied and received. So approver has done this. Probably some invoice team or some procurement team will do this and finally approve it, right? Once it is approved, we see the work status is changed to approved, and within the details we are seeing who is the supplier, what is the supplier ID, and what is the product list. Good, right? So that's how this is cool. I feel that with a less effort, without any development from Dev Studio, without any additional development from Dev Studio, we are able to configure this kind of business use case in App Studio within an application built on Cosmos React. Okay, and behind the scenes there is a lot to it. Like there is a Constellation architecture, and there are DX APIs which have helped powering up this UI in the backend. We will get to discuss that architecture and all the background details to this in the next session. I'll take you to the list of DX APIs available to start with, and then we'll take you through how this payment request is rendering all this UI from the configurations. Okay, hope you have followed this far. In the further sessions, we'll go deep into the architecture, and then we'll show you the DX APIs, and we'll get to those discussions. Yeah. If you have any feedback or suggestions, or if you feel that the example is a bit complex or you're not able to follow, or if it is easy to understand, either ways, feel free to drop a comment. Thank you.